Okay, so what does the fifth commandment like really state?
The fifth commandment says you shall not kill. Really, it says you shall not murder. For instance, if you hunt and you kill a deer, that's not murder because you're providing food for yourself, for your family. But killing, murdering is what the commandment is really truly all about.
Okay. So what does the church think about when you can kill for a legitimate defense?
Okay, for instance, if you were in a situation where your life is being threatened, let's say that a person is coming at you with a machete, and they're coming directly at you with a machete, and you have got a pistol, okay? And that person is coming at you with deadly intent. They are not joking around. They're coming directly at you. You have the right to defend yourself to save your life. Or, let's say, a loved one, the life of your family, a friend, or even a stranger. That person's life is being threatened. And someone's coming directly, toward them, and you see that this is a definite, clear situation where a life is being threatened. You have got the right to defend that person. Even though your life is not directly being threatened, you still have the right to defend that person whose life is being threatened.
Okay. What does the church stand on in intentional homicide?
Okay, intentional homicide, that would be murder. Let's look at the difference between what we just talked about. When it comes to, say, self-defense, you are killing someone to protect yourself. You're not murdering. Intentional homicide, that would be direct murder. You are killing not to defend yourself, you're killing to wipe somebody out, just for ill intent. So that would be a whole different thing.
Okay. And why does the church stand where it stands on abortion?
Because with the dignity of human life, life begins at the moment of conception to the point of natural death. The moment of conception happens there in the womb. You spend 9 months in the womb, in gestation, and because life has dignity, and it's precious from the very beginning to the very end, we want to protect it in the womb. And abortion is the taking of life in the womb during that time. So because we say that, again, life has dignity from that very first moment, the very first start, to its natural end, we protect it at all times, even in the womb itself.
Okay. When is it okay to, say, pull the plug on somebody when they're, mortally ill?
Yeah. When a person is ill, you would have to be, in a sense, the person, to pull the plug, the person would have to be basically brain dead. There's a lot of circumstances we have to look at here. But if the person, say that they have, say, a life-sustaining support, the person would have to be showing no signs of life at all, and then the plug would be pulled at that point. So they have to be, again, definite, clear, brain death. That would be, an instance where you could pull the plug.
And if you kill yourself because you're in extreme pain, is that morally illicit or?
Okay, a person, when they take their life, when a person commits suicide, we're talking about, suicide is never under any circumstance justified. There are some people that say that they have a terminal illness, they see themselves suffering, and they don't want to suffer, so they want to hasten the process because they've got a terminal illness, and they say, well, I'm going to take my life early. Again, because we believe that life has dignity from the point of conception to its natural end, we are not the authors of life. God writes our life. Because we're not the authors, we don't have authority to take life, even our own. We don't have the right to do that. God is the one who would make that decision on when our time goes. And the thing with suffering, when suffering happens, we look, and the world can kind of look at suffering as being something that should always, be, absolutely avoided. And of course, we want to avoid suffering at all costs. But even a person that is dying and they go through suffering in that process, there is dignity in having their life, upheld, that their life is, sustained and assisted even through suffering. There's a virtue for suffering. When a person offers up their suffering for somebody else, they make their body like a prayer, their life experience like a prayer to help somebody else out. So suffering is not always, a bad thing. We want to try to manage it as much as possible. But a person, say, with a terminal illness still does not have the right to take their lives. Even with euthanasia, for instance, when people talk about, they see somebody who's got a terminal illness, do we have the right to end their lives early? And the answer is absolutely not. We do not have the right to take that. You look at it, a cure could come about at the last minute for a person with terminal illness. A cure could come about for one's own illness. A miracle could happen where a person would be prayed with and healed. All possibilities. Now, suicide, when it comes to depression, depression is that still, it's not an option when a person gets depressed. They still don't have the right to take their lives when they are depressed. Now, when a person does die, say if they take their lives through suicide, let's say a person's extremely depressed. Sometimes people wonder, well, how does God treat that when that person dies? Does God, send that person to hell? Okay, I'll say this. In order for a person to separate themselves from God, from heaven, okay, for all of eternity, which is, you're talking about hell. In order for that to happen, there are three factors that have got to be present. It's got to be serious matter, full awareness, and finally full consent. Serious matter, full awareness, and full consent. Is suicide serious matter? Yes. Is there full consent? I mean, do they do it? Do they go through with it? Obviously. But the awareness can often be a factor that can lessen one's their responsibility. Meaning, the person who's extremely depressed is not clear in their mind and heart. And when they take their lives, God's going to look at it and go, okay, it was grievous matter, yes. There was full consent, yes. But again, God may look at them and go, He may look at them, we don't know. God may look at them and go, because you were so depressed, your understanding of what you were doing was limited. And God may look at them and go, I give you total mercy. And He may bring them, allow them into purgatory for a temporary amount of time, or bring them to heaven directly. So, again, we rely on the mercy of God. When a person does take their life, it doesn't necessarily mean that they've gone straight to hell. Only God can make that final judgment. Yet at the same time, we on our part never, ever want to risk our salvation by taking our lives, even when things get bad. Does that make sense? Okay.
That's about it.
Okay, good. Good job.